Hi everyone, I'm Silvester Sabathiel and I want to present the paper I've been working on together with Professor McClelland and Professor Solstad, namely on emerging representations for counting in a neural network model. So formally, counting means to assign number words to entities with certain constraints, such as that each entity is corresponded to exactly one number word, and that the order of the number words must follow a fixed sequence. These principles can then be applied to any kind of entity. However, children usually do not learn counting by explicitly telling them these principles, but exposing them to many examples. So in this work, we asked the question, can abstract representations for the concept of counting emerge in a neural network agent when trained to perform different counting-related tasks? Therefore, we implemented a model for a multimodal interactive environment with automatic solving algorithms for different counting-related tasks, such as reciting n number words, counting temporally distributed flashes, counting spatially distributed white squares, and giving n squares from a source location to a target location. The neural network we use to train on these tasks is depicted here. The key components of the network are the visual channel, which receives the visual input, and the language channel, which receives the task instructions, as well as an echo of the verbal output from the last time step. The channel's concatenated representation is then mapped to a motor and a verbal output. This network is then trained with a standard supervised learning scheme, where the automatic solving algorithms are providing the teaching signal. In the following, we try to understand which internal mechanisms the network learned to solve all these tasks. We analyzed the visual representation layer of a successfully trained network with the so-called Hinton diagram, where white and black squares represent positive and negative values respectively, and the size of the squares represents the magnitude of the weights and node activations. Thereby, we could identify nodes that are only active when there is no entity to count. Further, we can see that these nodes are connected to the number words via large negative weights. Thus, if there is no entity to count, the verbal output will be suppressed. To quantify the impression that the entities are represented in a visual layer, we looked at the correlation between the activation vectors of different situations with the Pearson correlation, which is done by shifting all vectorized data points such that the mean is in the origin and taking the color encoded cosine of the angle between two vectors as a measure for their correlation. This can then be done for activation vectors of various situations. The blue colored grid cells show the low correlation between the activation in situations when there is an entity counted and when there is no entity counted. The red colors show that the activations correlate highly when an entity of any number is counted. Very similar patterns are visible for all tasks. A further analysis revealed that there are nodes which do not distinguish the type of entity in the different tasks. Similar analysis on the language representation of the network. The Hinton diagram and correlation matrices revealed first that the numbers are represented in the language channel, and second that the number representation is shared over all tasks, which was supported by the high correlation between the activation patterns for same numbers in different tasks. So indeed, we found counting-related concepts such as the entity to number word assignment in the visual representation and the number word representation in the language channel of our network. Further, we discovered that some of these representations are independent of the kind of entity and thus abstract. So that's it. You can find the details of the project in our paper, and if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to discuss this with you during the poster session. Thank you.